Hey everyone, let's dive into the exciting world of French explorers. These were brave people who sailed far and wide, looking to discover new lands and build empires. Today we'll meet two such explorers, Louis Juchereau de Saint-Denis and Christophe-Louis-Leon Juchault de Lamoricière. They lived about 100 years apart, but both were really important to France's story. They left their mark on places far, far away. Louis Juchereau de Saint-Denis was born way back in 1676. His family lived in New France, a big chunk of land that France owned in North America. Growing up in Canada, young Louis loved hearing stories about explorers and dreamed of faraway places. He had no idea that one day he'd become one of those famous explorers. St. Denis's life was full of adventure. He was an explorer, a diplomat. That means he talked to different groups of people to keep things peaceful. And a brave soldier. He traveled from the freezing St. Lawrence River all the way to the sunny plains of Texas. He's a big reason why Louisiana and Texas exist today. Back in the early 1700s, Louisiana was like a giant wild playground. It was full of exciting possibilities, but also lots of dangers. This is where Louis Juchereau de Saint-Denis decided to make his mark. He went on a bunch of expeditions that changed Louisiana forever. Saint-Denis was driven by two things. He wanted to discover new places, and he knew there was money to be made. He realized that the Mississippi River was like a giant highway for trading. He wanted France to be in charge of the river and all the land around it. His travels took him deep into the heart of America, where he made friends with Native American tribes and built trading posts. These trading posts helped Louisiana grow. But Saint-Denis wasn't content with just Louisiana. He also had his eye on Spanish Texas, a nearby area with lots of resources and potential allies. He went on several trips to Texas, even though it was dangerous and the Spanish weren't too happy about it. That took a lot of guts and clever talking. In the year 1700, Saint-Denis started a new adventure. He was put in charge of building Fort de la Boulaye. This fort, built right next to the Mississippi River, was super important for the French. It was like a link in a chain of forts that stretched all the way from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. As the boss of Fort de la Boulaye, Saint-Denis had a big job. He had to make sure the French controlled the lower Mississippi River and that trade with Native Americans went smoothly. Life at the fort wasn't easy. Imagine living in the middle of nowhere with wild animals, grumpy tribes who might attack, and no one to hang out with except the other soldiers. But St. Denis was a great leader. The fort became a busy trading center and showed everyone how ambitious France was. St. Denis was really good at dealing with all the different groups of people in the area. Some tribes were friends with the French, some were enemies, and it was always changing. He made peace treaties and sometimes had to fight to protect the fort. He worked really hard to make sure the little colony would survive and grow. In 1714, St. Denis did something really important. He started a new town called Fort Saint-Jean-Baptiste. We know it today as Natchitoches, Louisiana. This town is still around today, and it shows just how important St. Denis was to Louisiana's history. Natchitoches was a big win for France. Spain wanted the land, but France got there first. The town became a busy place for trading. It was like a big melting pot with French, Spanish, and Native American people living and working together. Natchitoches was next to the Red River, which flows into the Mississippi, so it was really easy to get around by boat. St. Denis was like the town's proud parent, watching over it as it grew. Natchitoches became a symbol of how clever and tough the French were, even when things got tough. Today, Natchitoches is the oldest town in the Louisiana Purchase. It's like a living history book. If you walk down its streets, past the old buildings and under the shady oak trees, it's like taking a trip back in time to when explorers like St. Denis were exploring new lands. Now let's hop across the world and talk about Emir Abdelkader, a real hero in Algeria. He was called the Lion of Algiers because he was so brave. He was born in the early 1800s and became super important when France invaded Algeria. Abdelkader wasn't just a fighter, he wanted to unite all the different tribes in Algeria so they could fight together. He was a brilliant leader and helped Algerians feel like they were one nation. Even after he was captured and sent away from Algeria, his story continued to inspire people to fight for their freedom. Talk about courage and never giving up. During the Big War, Britain created a special group called the Arab Bureau. Their job was to figure out how to deal with everything happening in the Middle East. The Arab Bureau was really important. They decided who to be friends with, who to fight, and how to win battles. Because of the Arab Bureau, Britain took control of a lot of land in the Middle East. This changed everything in the region and is still important today. Imagine being a soldier in a war, and then when the fighting is over, you become a leader. That's what happened to a lot of soldiers after the war. They became politicians and leaders, using what they learned in the war to make decisions about peace. It wasn't just about changing their clothes. It was about taking on new responsibilities and helping to rebuild countries after the war. These soldier-turned leaders were really important in shaping the world we live in today. The things that people did during the war still affect us today. The decisions they made, the battles they fought, they all left a mark on history. It's like ripples in a pond that keep spreading outwards. It's important to remember these stories and learn from the past. Have you ever wondered if your family has a cool connection to history? Maybe you had a great-great-grandparent who fought in a war or traveled to a faraway land. Lots of families have stories passed down from grandparents to parents to children. These stories can make history come alive. It's like having a personal connection to the past, whether it's through old letters, photographs, or just stories we hear. Family history is pretty amazing.